Hey, everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you're on the lifeboat. And good evening to Stay Before anybody starts yelling, I got a text message just recently that said I had a 1:30 appointment. I did not have a 12:30 appointment. I really thought they told me 12:30, but I got a text that said I had a 1:30 appointment. So I'm not about to blow off my doctor's appointment. I'm going. If they didn't text me, I would have been sitting there for an hour, and I probably would have been pretty salty about it. But there's another trove of Epstein stuff that got dumped, and you've probably heard about it already. As I said the last time I did this, I really don't want to put stuff out that's guilt by association or any of those things. And I'll tell you something, the more that this stuff comes out, the more we're starting to get an idea of exactly what we're looking at. And you know what, people? It's different. For instance, it's coming out now that if you were to have gone onto that island, right? Either that's a really old one, Calhoun, or that ain't the same guy we're talking about. Anyway, if you were to go onto that island, there were a ton of prostitutes on this island, apparently. And these escorts, prostitutes, whatever you want to call them, working girls, were of age. So if you were to have gone down onto this island, we're starting to get a much different picture of what this looks like. So there were definitely underage girls there. However, if you've got 5 or 6 girls that are in their teens and they are surrounded by dozens of other girls who are of age, it probably doesn't stick out like Wednesday in the middle of the week to the same degree that it would have. Yeah, Calhoun, that's one of our guys right there. But I'll tell you, I want to be really careful still to make sure that I'm not going to do what everybody else does. But the scariest thing about this is the stuff that's being released. Let me explain to you just how easy it is to end up on this. So let's say I'm an attorney and I'm doing a deposition and I'm interrogating somebody for this case. And I say, hey, Spanx Calhoun, you know the names? You ever been to the island? You guys ever spent any time together? And the person that they're talking to goes, no, I don't know that name. The next person they ask, different witness. They say, hey, you know Spanx Calhoun? You ever show up at that island? Nope. I mean, I know who he is. I've never seen him personally. He was never anywhere where I saw him, right? They asked 2 other people that. Then they say 4 times Spanx Calhoun's name appears in these documents. Literally, a lot of those names appear just like that. They are names that were redacted, right? Because every name was redacted. There was not one name from this that was allowed in there. So now to separate the wheat from the chaff gets a little bit more difficult. But there are 3 names that are really looking pretty hideous through this entire thing. And those are Bill Richardson, Les Wexner, and let me try to remember what this other cat's name was, or look at my notes. The frightening thing, people, is that Marvin Minsky, 2 of these guys are dead, right? 2 of these people are dead. Les Wexner, who started the Limited Brands, he was also the CEO of Victoria's Secret. Prior to him taking over Victoria's Secret, you probably had never heard of them. But when Les Wexner took the helm at Victoria's Secret, he came out with the concept of the Victoria's Secret girls, all that trash. Bill Richardson, you should know that name. He was on Bill Clinton's cabinet. He was also the governor of where? New Mexico? I think it was New Mexico. Let me check notes, people, so that I don't look stupid. I'm pretty sure that that's where he was from. Pretty sure Bill Richardson was from, but pretty creepy. Yeah, it is New Mexico. Former governor of New Mexico. Thank you, Debbie. I should have just looked up at you. You guys are quicker than I am. There is a New Mexico. A brand spanking New Mexico Jeep guy. Randy, here's the thing. Clinton does look bad in this, right? When you start reading all of the stuff, there are people who say some pretty messed up stuff about, but there are multiple accusers in this. And as I have always said, I think you just believe them until there's a crapload of reason not to. You have to do that. That being said, there's just some odd stuff. There's people who have retracted some of the things that they said. Now, that's not unheard of. People get frightened. But there's a woman named Sarah Ransom who Named Richard Branson. She named Clinton, and she named Trump as people who there wasn't necessarily anything specific in terms of crime, but made it sound as if it was well known that these three liked younger people. Now, I'm going to say this and throw in that afterwards she said she lied to try to draw attention to the case. All right. She came out and said, I lied to try to draw more attention to this case because Epstein was a sicko and she wanted to make sure that something happened. Okay. Now, she is now saying, no, all of that did happen. I don't know what to believe. But unfortunately, that casts kind of a, an odd shadow. And when you look at this case, there's an odd shadow everywhere. As I told you guys once before, there was 150 boxes of tapes and DVDs and computer files and all of this stuff that was taken off of the island. But when you really read what happens, it didn't go down like that. What happened was the FBI said, look at all this stuff. We got DVDs, we got computer setups, we've got what do you call those things? Like a digital recording devices, like a digital recorder, backups for all of the cameras, all of this crap. And they thought, we need this. So they went to get a warrant for it. Now, I don't know how the hell you go to that island without a damn warrant, but they went to get a warrant for this stuff. And when they came back, it was gone. This is the story. Now, they got it back. When they got it back from the caretaker of the entire property who apparently put the stuff somewhere to keep it safe. That's called chain of custody, right? Anything that comes out of that now is suspect as hell because we don't know who had that stuff during what period of time. We don't know what they took out, what they put in, right? That's all, and it just seems like at every turn, this crap just gets muddied. And this 2015 case, right? Everybody that you asked a question about is now part of this case. There are some actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, they kept asking questions about him and everybody kept saying, nah, I've never seen the guy anywhere. But you hear Leo DiCaprio's name. Alan Dershowitz had been accused of actually having relations with the Guffieri girl, who then said, no, you know what? I made a mistake. It is an older guy, looked a lot like him, but and again, that's legit. There's trauma. These people are underage. It's so understandable that, they may make a mistake but the problem is that when you take all of those little things and you bring them all together, how are they going to prosecute someone like Les Wexner, who's the only dude left alive? By the way, he's a billionaire, absolutely massive amount of money. And old Jeffrey Epstein had power of attorney for every single dollar that this man owned. Wrap your dome around that. And I started thinking after the last video that we did, that painting of Bill Clinton, right? That hung inside the New York townhouse of Jeffrey Epstein. I think there's way more symbolism in that painting than meets the eye, right? This was a president of the United States of America. And he's got a picture of this cat on his wall wearing a dress. I think that there's symbolism in this. I'm sorry. Yeah, the dress is blue. And I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I think it was Epstein's way of saying that, you know what? Former president of the United States, that dude's my bitch. Honest to God, I think that that's what that was trying to say. The blue dress is definitely a Lewinsky reference, but he's trying to say, you know what? Most powerful man in the world, not in here. Right? He said, you're my woman, right? You hear it's pretty nasty, but I see symbolism in that that's massive. I mean, people walk into that house and see that. Can you imagine the level of disrespect to show a president? Now, let's say if you just were not a guy that this president happened to hang out with, that means old Bill saw this. He walked in there regularly and saw this thing hanging there. That's really odd, people. That's really, really odd. You know what? And this is the question. This is the one that I promise you we're gonna get yanked. These are the questions that we ain't gonna get answered. Who did Epstein work for? How high up does it go that he could get whacked in a federal prison? Where did his money come from? Right? These are questions that, don't you find it really odd that no one seems to know? Don't you find that a little bit frightening? How is it that with everything we can do with computers and all of the unbelievable right? Ability to track down. I promise you, people, when they wanted me, they knew if I had broke wind and when. Hold on. Yeah, right. This is a really interesting question, right? What did he have? I want to know what he had on Lex Wexner, right? The Guffieri girl and the woman. I'm sorry, she was a young woman at the time. They were asking whether or not, specifically, the former president would have known what was going on, and her response was, "Yeah, he would be a witness because he knew what my purpose there was for." He's referring to the island for Jeffrey, and he visited Jeffrey's island. There's pictures of nude girls all around the house at all of his houses, and it's something that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't shy about admitting to people. That's Virginia Guffieri. When asked, "Do you think Clinton was aware of what was going on with Epstein?" Now, again, this is a civil case, and it's a civil case that got thrown out, right? So all of the discovery, it would not have ended up, and they may have used this much of this. They may have found that 99% of everything they heard is BS and they don't believe it. But we don't know any of that. What we get is just a big bag full of stuff. And unfortunately, I think it's like, it's like trying to take a drink off of a fire hose, right? There is so much information coming out about so many people that seem to have nothing at all to be tied to. And I'll tell you another thing. The fact that you got on this guy's plane, he didn't have one. He had a small little Air Force. This dude had a lot of private travel. He could arrange private travel at the drop of a hat, and apparently did it often. So if there was a gala event or if there was a bunch of people, very famous people tend to show up at all the same places. And he was fast as hell to say, "Hey, I got a private jet, man. There's no reason for you to go to the airport. If you just want to catch a ride, there's a bunch of people heading that way anyway." And it sounds like that happened a lot. It really does. It sounds like it happened a lot. But it is really going to be difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff. And I think that's by design. And I'll tell you something else. You look through all of this stuff, this isn't it. There are still names that are redacted in this. I promise you there are. And it's obvious, like when you read, there is a name that is redacted that has been accused of trafficking. It's not a name that they say was just hanging around. Somehow, somebody that is accused of this is successfully keeping this thing blocked. Distraction. I think JJ Sinclair, this is my opinion, and it's only my opinion, but I think that this is distraction. I really do. I think this is distraction. And we find ourselves in an odd situation. Yeah, Gates's name again goes through all of this. The thing with Gates that really creeped me out was the video that Spanx played for you last week, how he reacted when they brought up Jeffrey Epstein's name. Did you learn a lesson in this? His response was, "Yeah, well, the guy's dead, so you better, you need to be careful." What does that mean? It's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. Only the three-letter agency that starts with a C could get him loose. Confinement in Florida. Remember the statement, "above my pay grade"? Yeah, absolutely. And I also believe, I agree with you on this. I don't know that it's a three-letter agency. I would lean in that way, right? My theory leans in that direction. It really does. But whoever put this up, this was an operation. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And if you watch how the media is portraying this, right? If you watch how the media is portraying this, they will get very creative to make it sound like people involved in this have absolutely been hooked. Wait a sec. What do we got here? 71-year-old serial bank robber arrested yesterday in LA. They said he has spent 40 years in the federal prison system. Is there any chance you could pull up that cat's name for me? 71 years old. See if his first name is David. That might be interesting. I did time with a bank robber and he said when he got out he was going back, but he's done at least 40 for bank robbery. It's all he does. But LA seems odd. I don't think he was from that part of the country, but you never know, right? Bruce Edward Bell is the man's name. Bruce Edward Bell. Bruce Bell. It does not sound familiar though. But I do know a guy that I know at some point we're gonna see the guy's name pop up. His name is David, and his last name starts with an S. I won't put him on blast in case he went straight. But who would it affect as a presidential candidate? I mean, it depends on the people out there that are believing it, right? There are definitely they're muddying the waters as much as possible. I think but for me, when we come up onto this election season, I'm going to be. I think I'm really going to just be very interested in what's going on at our southern border. Barrister 13, thank you. I do think I am on the mend. Wonder Woman, have a great lunch break. Thank you for stopping in. Yeah, 71-year-old serial bank robber. That's a little old to still be in the game. Kind of sad. But you know what? If he spent 40 years in prison, at least by now he's really used to it. Because to make no mistake, he's going to spend the rest of his life in there. They are not going to. The 70 bank robbers are not eligible for Social Security. A lot of truth to that. Well, you can still rob a bank at that age for sure. You know what I mean? There's not much. You absolutely can continue to rob banks. It doesn't require a whole lot of running. You don't have to work out very hard. 71, pretty sad though. I would have. You'd like to think that. Maybe somewhere he's with his grandkids and. Playing in a backyard. There's something very, very sad about old criminals. It was one of the things that was most depressing about prison. I'll be really honest. When you would look in there and you'd see guys that were, in their 80s or 90s, and there's nobody there to take care of them. Every once in a while, convicts would, if the guy had ties to a gang, or if the guy had, crimes that were famous, there were old men in there that were really respected that people took care of. But the vast majority of them just basically, die alone. Not, I mean, a lot of them did a lot of bad stuff too, though. If Dick Van Dyke can tap into his 90s, you can definitely rob a bank into your 70s. Yeah, I mean, chances are he's not hopping the counter like Point Break. I would say that there's a pretty good chance old Bruce probably went in and said, "Hey, I'd like the money." Right? Probably handed him a note. And then you walk out slowly. You don't want to run. You don't want to do anything to draw attention to yourself anyway. I think old men, I don't think people look at. He's up to 4 heists and they're looking for him. Wow. Okay. Well, 4 heists. I'm sorry. When they said serial bank robber, I don't know. Calvin, what do you think? Did you think 4 was the number you were going to hear? I don't know I thought I was expecting something a little bit bigger. But, I mean, I'm not mad at him. Picture of him with a cig. You mean a bang bang? Oh no, that gets you. Yeah, he's definitely not getting that. They lose their sense of humor about that a lot. Habit would be my guess. Again, I've never met anybody that robbed a bank for any other reason. Never in all of the time that I was in the federal system. And it's not a union, it's not a hangout, but usually when you get to a yard and they check your paperwork, they'll go, "Oh man, we got like 4 people here that did that." So you tend to meet bank robbers everywhere you go, and everyone I've ever met needed dope. They were doing it for dope money. Hello, Laura Estrada. So sad I've missed so many lives, but I'm taking a little break while my student is in dance class. I'm a behavioral therapist. Awesome. And how cool is it that your student is taking a dance class? I love that. I think if you're working on behavioral therapy, I think dance is probably a really great concept. I love that people are getting into the idea of things that are holistic, right? Dance can really can do beautiful things. It can bring on an awful lot of really positive chemicals in your dome. You can ask Calhoun. He does some pretty incredible stuff with fire. He used a fake gun Oh, wow. And forced her to get to the back to get 65K on this one. He got caught in his car. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean, let's say he was 19. He's still never going to get out. What he did escalates bank robbery to a degree you would not believe, whether the gun is real or not. When you force somebody to move 12 inches and it is your will, not theirs, that's kidnapping. Now, kidnapping as a that's not the what do you call it? The I can't think of the word, but the main crime that he's committing is bank robbery. This is in addition to bank robbery. So it's bank robbery and attempted kidnapping and oh man, all kinds of bad stuff. What on the criminal sentencing guideline sheets? I've talked to you guys. I think I've showed these on earlier shows before. But you have an axis that runs this way and one that runs along the bottom, and one tells you your criminal history, and the other tells you how severe the crime is. So bank robbery starts at a 21, right? And it goes up to about 50 on the federal sentencing guideline sheets, or 48 or something like that. It doesn't go too much higher than the 40s, I think. But when you start getting into kidnapping, you're into the 40s. And your best case scenario is 30 to life. That's your best case scenario. Throw on top of that everything else he did. This cat's never, I mean, that's it. It's the end of his life. Hi, friends. Just got out of a doctor's appointment where I had to tell him I used to do blow, so please take me off the stimulant med. He was way more understanding than I thought he would be. You know what? It's a lesson, right? Please talk to your doctors. They're not going to judge you for doing blow. There's an excellent chance they did too. Honestly, doctors experiment. It's one of those things. I've known a lot of doctors that a lot of drugs. They're not going to judge you, I promise. But if you lie to your doctor, you're a fool. You don't lie to your defense attorney, and you don't lie to your doctor. Everybody else in life, you figure that out, but don't lie to your doctors. They cannot call the cops. They can't do any of the things you think they can do. I promise. So please be honest with them, especially if you're doing anything that, you're trying to get sober, you're trying to do anything. Don't lie to them. Don't lie to them. 18 hours, no cigarettes. How good is that, Dennis? That is good stuff. And that is not easy, people. It's one of the toughest addictions to beat on earth. Good stuff, man. 18 hours. That's probably worthy, eh? And that really is a rugged addiction. So to everybody trying to beat nicotine, my hat is off to you. The DeMar resident, the only name on this list that is really new that we did not know about would probably be Lex Wexner, right? That's kind of the big name to come out of this one. He's not dead. The other two that kind of seemed a bit tainted was Bill Richardson and that scientist. But of the three of them, the only one still alive is Lex Wexner. He was he started Limited Brands, right? And was also the CEO of Victoria's Secret. Put Victoria's Secret on the map. A lot of money. Interesting that no charges have come yet, right? Bank robber, 3 hots and a cot for life. No, well, you really don't get 3 hots and a cot, right? You get 1 to 2 hots. You do get a cot, but yeah, they will spend the rest of their life behind if the crime was committed the way the last one was described, where you take a teller, you tell you got to go to the bank and get 65K, never getting out. And yes, we will be paying for that person forever. Runs to the tune of about $36,000 a year, unless they have medical problems. That's usually what they say. Lisa Beam, I tend to agree with you. I really do. I think most likely this was a intelligence agency, ours or somebody else's. Well, Wexler, they had a very unusual relationship. Again, no one seems to be able to figure out why this man was willing to put so much faith in Jeffrey Epstein that he signed power of attorney to let this dude do anything he wanted with any of his money. I mean, do you think he was that much of a wizard? Well, I mean, you can be. If you're bringing in the heads of major, huge corporations, Fortune 500 corporations, right? Talking about some of the biggest, corporations on planet Earth, and you bring in their the heads of these corporations and you get them in compromising situations, boy, you could get a lot of insider information. You could certainly know exactly how to bet on the stock market at any given time. And I promise you, there's a lot of that going on too. This was a information gathering deal. By the way, the dollar amounts that that they were throwing around, according to the lawsuit in 2015, Virginia Gutierrez said she was paid $15,000 for one encounter with the prince, and that for a photo, 160,000 American was paid. Right? We're not talking about, this is not escort money, right? So they're obviously making this a very big deal. Everybody that was there, that man. The other one I would like to smut up. David Copperfield apparently said something to one of these in the documents. He had said something to someone underage, right? One of the minors that said he was aware. He had said to the minor, "Yeah, I heard that Jeffrey, uses you guys to recruit other young people as well." You were aware of that, were you? Right? As I said, you chase it down, and the person, you got to have something so you can say, no, this person's pretty messed up. Yeah, well, unless he can make, common sense disappear, that doesn't pass the smell test. Is lawyer shaming a real thing? It's such an unusual system that we have, right? I mean, somebody like Jeffrey Epstein, no matter what you're accused of, you have to have somebody who can present the defense. Now, you got the money, you can buy the best defense in America, and he did, right? But they didn't go to trial, they cut a deal. The question becomes, how in hell do you get that deal, right? I don't think Dershowitz is that good. I don't think anybody is that good, right? Yeah, this is the problem. We never heard from him, right? We never heard from him. It's pretty jacked up. I really hope that this is the case. I really hope. Unfortunately, he won't be elected, but I would love to see somebody prosecute this. I think that this is the only logical thing. I really do. I think it is the only logical thing. Yeah. I believe this wholeheartedly. It becomes real easy to become real rich real quick. When people say, how in hell did he come up with that much money? Well, I mean, I hate to put it in like the most layman's terms you possibly can. But if you're worth $6 billion and they send you a picture of yourself or a video of yourself in a sexually compromising video with a person 16 years old, what do you think that person will write a check for to make that go away? Huh? You think 100 million is a lot of money to somebody to make that go away? I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. Now you're all in, aren't you? I mean, he's already got the dirt on you. At this point, he's painting a picture of you in a dress and hanging it on the wall of his house to tell the entire world, yo, this one I own too. I think that's what went on. I don't think we're ever going to know. I mean, the stuff that we really want to know, I don't think we're ever going to know. I think that this goes so far up that we're, what's the word I'm looking for? We're peeing in the wind. See, Rick gets it. It's. I want people to come away from the lifeboat with some modicum of knowledge, right? To come away from something that we do and think, maybe we're a little better. Rick is thinking, I just need to get myself a job as a substitute teacher. I think it's really kind of important. I don't know if Bill Barr's dad is still alive, but it may have something to do with who hires you as a private teacher, as a substitute teacher. I think it may have something to do with who hires you. All of the pictures that you see with the, they're little girls. Any way you shake it, they're little girls. This is going to be an ugly campaign. This is going to be an ugly year. My promise to everybody is I'm not getting mad at anybody over who they decide to vote for. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And I'm not going to turn the lifeboat into a political channel. It's a hard thing to not weigh in on political stuff if it right, if it crosses paths with addiction or recovery or drugs in general. It's kind of hard not to comment on it. So currently, what's going on for me is the southern border is of great concern, because the stuff coming across the border it's not drugs per se, really. It's attempted murder, right? A bunch. 6 billion buys a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? $6,000 million. Boy, that's a lot of cash, isn't it? Boy, oh boy. The amount of money that all of these people in the circle that, these are the kind of things that are hard to wrap your brain around. Karen, glad that you're here. Welcome to the boat. I don't know that I've ever said hi to you, but I'm glad that you're here. I really am. You know what, Calhoun? I saw that. You sent that to me, didn't you? Was that you that sent that to me? Channel 5 News on YouTube did a sweet Kensington Street documentary yesterday. I watched it. Spanx, can you put the link to that in the Dropbox when we're done? Yeah, okay. It's worth looking at. I'll put trigger warnings all over this. If your drug of choice causes you to nod, I would recommend not doing it. I mean, don't watch it, because this could be a trigger for you in a pretty big way. I should run for president. I can't run for president, people. I got a pretty ugly past. However, Johnny Scoville can run for president. I think that Johnny would actually make a pretty decent presidential candidate, and maybe Spanx Calhoun for VP. Right? I would just like a nice job in the administration, like maybe the ambassador to the Bahamas. Right? Like that'd be a pretty cool gig. No, Calhoun, you don't like that? You're shaking your head like you don't want me to have that gig. All right, pick another country. I just want a sweet ambassadorship where I don't have to do much. I miss those days. It was plain rude and bad manners. You know what? We were a lot ruder 25 or 30 years ago, to be sure. But boy, we all seem to get along a lot better when we were rude. It's insane, but we seem to really get along a lot better when all of us were way ruder. We seem to have gotten just a pinch soft in our old age, and it seems to have changed how. Yeah, well, you know the drill. Two things you never talk about at work: politics and religion. Pretty good rules to go by. Also on first dates, throw in gun control and abortion. I promise you'll thank me later. Squirrel for president. Warm baskets, naps, and treats for all. You know what? That's not a bad platform. All BS aside, that's not a bad platform. Cedar Scoville for president. She has the brain and she's gorgeous. You make a really good point. I would love to see both my kids run. I think we could have an all Scoville ticket. I would like it. We will, as I said, we'll put the link in the Dropbox. And what I mean by it's graphic is you're going to see people on xylazine. You're going to see people on what they call trank dope. And if you've never seen Kensington Street is it's ground zero for the opioid epidemic in this country. Not necessarily in terms of deaths and all that, but in terms of in your face, like this is legal. You'll see people shooting dope on the street while cops walk by them. It is just an open air outdoor flea market while people buy and sell drugs in the open air. And unfortunately, the drugs that they're doing will cause you to fall asleep standing up. It will cause you to to pass out in just awful positions. And unfortunately, it's also causing an epidemic of people who are getting assaulted that way, right? Because that's what happens when people are completely incapacitated. Scumbags will take advantage of that, every single time. And it's really becoming an issue. Yeah, well, you know what? Squirrel is a very picky kitty, but she's game for all takers. I know she'd like to shop any cat, but she's definitely picky. Dreamies and trout fillets. Well, that just sounds good. People, I am not going to be going a full hour on this show. I'll tell you why. I am going to be showering and shaving and getting ready. Why do the cops ignore this? This is a great question. This is the question that everybody should ask, right? What happens here? And I'll tell you what happens, right? There's a couple of different ways that things happen, right, with cops. One is exigent circumstances. They come across something in the process of happening and they bust you while doing it, right? They roll up on the street corner, Spanks his hand in a bag of dope to somebody. They come in, they grab them. There you go. The other way is you're going to have to do an investigation. Now, all of this, now you start bringing in lawyers who are going to become part of this, right? And lawyers across the board keep telling people, we're not going to prosecute this case. This is coming from above, but we're not doing this. Or when it finally got to the point where it was so in people's faces that there was no way to not. And I'll tell you, credit where credit is due. Julie K. Brown. Julie K. Brown is the reason we know anything about anything with Epstein. Julie K. Brown figured out what was going on and said, not letting this die. I promise you, it wasn't the FBI. It wasn't cops. It was a reporter that realized what was going on. I think when you get up into the top echelons, people, how many judges are doing the same crap? I mean, how many judges do they own? Because they sure as hell own politicians, right? And the Federal Bureau of Investigation hasn't prosecuted anybody. They've known about all of this information since 2015, right? Since 2015. So I don't know. Doesn't seem like the FBI is in a big hurry to prosecute. According to the Southern District in New York, this case is not closed. How's that? They say that this is not over. Can we start over? Absolutely, we can. Should we take it from the top, Calhoun? You ready? I'm Captain Tommy Scovel. You are on the lifeboat. Well, you know, your side of the street clean. Good for you, hon. You're doing way better than everybody else. I'm not sure I'm doing a decent job of that myself. Isn't that terribly sad? Isn't that terribly sad? I want to tell you something. People don't believe this, but I'm telling you right now. I had feds work me over. I'm not joking you. Work me over. They're certainly not what, when I was growing up, it was instilled in me for real that, like, especially by my grandmother on mom's side, our nanny thought the FBI walked on water for real. And I think that they grew up in the days of Elliot Ness and, you know, watching the stuff on, on television. And we really had a lot of faith in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but yeah, they do a lot of really bad stuff, sadly. And it seems like maybe not the rank and file, the people that are working in there. I'm sure there are great people working in there, but you still got to go to your boss. And if your boss says, we're not investigating this guy, why? I don't know. It's coming from above. Well, if you're that officer, what are you going to say? You're going to say, all right, well, maybe this guy's one of us, right? Maybe he's deep undercover or whatever, because if they're not letting you prosecute, got to be a reason for it, right? Well, maybe in some really twisted, awful way, they believe that what they were doing was in the best interest of this country, and to be damned with all of those kids and their souls, right? Kristen, be safe. People, I'm going to wrap this puppy up because I need to go and shower. I mean, just on the outside chance that, there's somebody really attractive at the doctor's office. I can't go in here looking like a scrub. But I will be back at 5 o'clock tonight for the evening boat. Kim Wexler's Ponytail. Love that name. I think this is the way it used to be. I think this is exactly how it used to be. I think this is the way my parents and my grandparents felt about it. I think this is the way that everybody felt, right? Like the agency that starts with a C, we expected them to go do bad things. And we don't want to know what those bad things are because it keeps us safe, right? That's kind of how I grew up. We assumed they were doing bad things. Like they were probably whacking the people in other countries and doing crazy stuff. And we didn't want to know. Now it seems like they're doing stuff in our country. You realize that under the Central Intelligence Agency and their charter, they're not supposed to do anything inside this country. True story, right? That's what the Federal Bureau of Investigation does. The C organization is never supposed to do anything inside the U.S. I promise you that's not the case, sadly. Right? But that's a rant for another day. That is a rant for another day. But I want to thank each and all of you for showing up. And I'm going to keep, I really want the next little cache of documents. It's only going to be maybe 1 or 2 names. There are very few left, people. But you know what? I said it when this first started. The names that fight the hardest, right, are probably going to be the ones that are going to be the most interesting. And there are still a couple of names out there that are accused, by the way, of exactly what we're talking about. These aren't people that are accused of hanging out there or having friends or catching a ride on an airplane, or we just asked a question about them. These are people that the victims in this said, no, this individual was sleeping with underage women. And that name's redacted. I think we need to see that one. Right? I think we need to see that one. Yeah, was it a little too much highbrow with the cachet? What do you think? What do you go with? Trove? Would Trove be better? How about that? A new Trove? How about a buttload? Can I go with buttload? Okay, maybe not. You like the big words? Good. I'm a fan of big words. Well, I'm trying to remember the one that Kelly Copter used the other day. Oh, it was a good one. It had a bunch of syllables in it. I was thoroughly impressed. And then she said, I just learned this word. I'm trying to use it in a sentence. That's always good stuff. All right, people, that's a wrap. I'm going to go and check out Jennifer. I'm going to do that. I promise. I'm going to go and get myself checked out, and I will see all of you on the 5 o'clock, right? But you're a word nerd. I kind of like to think I am too. Lisa from Jersey, take care. A good unit of measurement is the F ton. Absolutely it is. I have been using that one for a very long time, my damn self, right? Trainee Human, good to see you. Glad you're here, man. Always fun when I can do a live with you. That's very, very cool. All right, everybody. Sir Tedrick Walker. I have zero evidence to go on for any reason whatsoever to think that you're right. I have no reason whatsoever to believe you are right, but I do. That's an opinion, everybody. You hear that? That's just an opinion. But I have an opinion. In my opinion, they got something on him. They got something on him because he does some real weird stuff, right? His conscience changes like the wind. He's something. They got something on him. We will see you at 5 o'clock. Spanx Calhoun, you want to come on and say, hey, what's happening? At least give us a wave. You're looking a little more dapper than this morning. For real. Calhoun's looking all spruced up. Look at you with your hat on. And don't you put a small one on there. That's better. That's better.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Just, about to have lunch. Pretty excited about that.
That's what I'm going to do too. This is almost done. This is how we're going to end. I wanted to show everybody this, right? But I didn't want to. You know how I can squirrel off, Calhoun. No, I do. From time to time, I do. You know what? This was not on. This is such an unusual. There we go. So yesterday we were talking about watches, and I amazingly could not find one sitting next to me. But we have a pocket watch here, and this is what I was talking about with the beating heart. Do you see that? That is called the balance. Now, that wheel goes back and forth, right? There's a spring on it, and it contracts in and out like this. And it does it 18,800 times an hour, right? That's what makes that tick. it has been doing that since not last century, but the one before. It's been doing it since the late 18s. That's pretty rowdy, right? I'm pretty impressed by that. And it is a device that, by the way, this thing is accurate to within about 6 seconds a day, right? Which is not too shabby for being a couple of 100 years old. All right, everyone, that's a wrap. I'm Captain Tommy. We'll see you on the next one. Calhoun, I love you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you more. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye-bye, kid.
All right.